Hey y'all, it's Holly. Welcome back to my channel. So today I am uploading during the daylight, which usually does not happen. I'm usually only able to record late at night for the most part. But anyways, so I'm just sitting here at my little bistro table, which fits absolutely perfectly in my living room. So working with a small space can be challenging, but I love it. It's so cozy. So today's video is on homeschool. And this video is going to be about homeschool haters and why so many people disagree with homeschool, or I call them homeschool haters, but why so many people hate on homeschooling. And so I'm going to talk about that for a few minutes. And for those of you that don't know, I am a single mom of two. I have two young boys, 3 and 7, and I have been homeschooling my 7-year-old. He's in first grade, nearing the end of first grade. I've been homeschooling him since pre-K. He did go to public school for pre-K, like a half-day pre-K for about 7 weeks, and that was right before the COVID pandemic in 2020. And so COVID kind of made us start homeschooling, but then we decided to continue with it regardless, just because it has provided us with so much flexibility in our lives and just being able to just live our lives according to what we want our lives to look like and not feeling like we have to constantly be in a rat race. So, with that being said, if you're not into homeschool, if you don't homeschool, you're not planning on homeschooling, you have no interest in homeschooling, this video might not be for you because this is a bit of a target video. It's not very broad spectrum. Obviously, it's just on homeschool, and statistically in the US, it's only about 2 to 3 children are currently homeschooled out of 100. So that's about 2 to 3%. So it's a pretty low percentage. So the reason why so many people do not approve of homeschooling, and the reason why so many people will find it strange and kind of hate on you, is mainly because it's foreign to them and they don't understand it because they've never experienced it, or maybe they're not close to anyone who has experienced it. And so that really, in my opinion, is the number one reason why people will tend to hate on homeschool. And I have experienced so much of this just in the short amount of time that I have been homeschooling my son. And so a lot of times, people will ask, oh, how is he liking school? How's school going? And, I just tell them, yeah, we homeschool. Everything's going good. And they just, their eyes get really wide and they're like, homeschool? Oh my gosh, well, how is that going? And it's like, good, actually, really good. And so it's just it's so foreign to so many people because they just don't get it. And so in the homeschool community, the majority of people that make up the homeschool population are pretty religious for the most part, because it's a lot of people that just don't want their kids in public schools for religious purposes. But there are also other non-religious people as well, people that just simply want more flexibility in their lives. And I personally have two pretty close friends that I was pretty close to growing up that were homeschooled. I think they started homeschooling around the 5th or 6th grade, and their lives just got so much better after that. They just felt like they were able to concentrate more and just really have more freedom in their lives. And really, I think for us, for our family, that's what homeschool is about just being able to not have to stress so much if somebody gets sick, if we've got something going on in the family that's a big deal, we've got an emergency or an accident, which these days happens a lot in this day and age, then we don't have to worry about, oh my gosh, we got to get a doctor's note, we got to get a school note, we got to notify the school, notify your teacher, this and that. And in my opinion, I think there's a lot of stress that goes into having a child in public school or private school for that matter. And that's a story for another day that I won't get into. And I'm not downing anyone that has their kids in, public or private school, because obviously most people do. Most people do not homeschool. And so with me being self-employed, it makes it easier for me to do that, to homeschool. And so for me, it's just so much easier as a single parent to do the homeschool. We're done. We have a 4-day-a-week curriculum. we're done in about an hour or so typically, and that doesn't include some things like field trips and things like extra activities that we do, but the main curriculum, the bulk of what we do on a daily basis, is done in an hour, and that's it. And there's no homework, there's no sign this, sign that, send this money for this and this money for that, and it's just so many things, which I've talked about before in some of my other homeschool videos. But the second reason that a lot of people hate on homeschooling is because they're simply envious, jealous, whatever you want to call it. They're coveting the fact that you are able to do this and produce a higher level of freedom. And it's really quite common, and sometimes this can be on a subconscious level with the individual, is that they will just simply, in their mind, they're thinking, oh wow, that really sucks that I can't do that, or I can't be like that and have that kind of freedom. And so I talk so much about on my channel about freedom and flexibility and self-employment and homeschool and all of these things. But what I can tell you is that from my own experience, and the experience of others as well, is that we are not isolated weirdos. This is actually getting to be a lot more common in society today. People taking the reins on their own lives and exiting the rat race and just taking control of your own life. And you don't have to fall victim to the mainstream matrix and do everything the way that society tells you that you have to do it, because we are producing our children into the world, and when we are able to provide an education ourselves, it is a completely different experience, and it really puts out something different into the world through that child. And I'm not saying that children that go to regular school cannot be unique and that they cannot be that way, but what I am saying is that having being able to teach your child yourself just simply gives a different approach, and it does put out something different that a lot of people aren't able to put forth. So if that makes sense. And again, not trying to upset anyone, not trying to judge anyone. This is just me, my personal experience, my family, and what we experience. So those are really the two main reasons why people will hate on homeschool. Again, one, because it's foreign to them. They don't understand it. It's weird to them. It's bizarre to them because they haven't experienced it. And two, because they are either consciously or subconsciously jealous. And then the third reason would just be if they are just absolutely just a mean person and they just judge you and think that you are crazy, and they're like, oh my gosh, why is your child not in school? And occasionally you will run across people like that. I definitely have. And it is unfortunate, but you just have to understand that that's not your problem. That's a reflection of them and their own issues. So, has nothing to do with you. So, really that's about it, guys, when it comes to people hating on homeschool. If you are a homeschool parent, you probably already know so much about this. If you're thinking about homeschooling, or maybe you've homeschooled in the past but you aren't currently, or maybe you're thinking about it again. This video is just for you guys. It's for something that, like I say, this has been a bit of a targeted video towards homeschooling in general. Of course, some of my followers will watch my videos regardless, which if you do, I really do appreciate that, because even if the video can't help you, maybe it can help somebody else. And I know for me, when I started my homeschool journey, and even now, I do still get triggered sometimes when people say things. I do still get a little bit upset when people act like it's strange that I'm homeschooling my child. And it really does help me to find YouTube videos like this where I can find like-minded individuals who have experienced the same things and who are constantly going through the same things and facing the same battles. It is so comforting. So I hope that this can comfort someone out there. And yeah. So a recent experience of mine was, just to give a quick example, is I took my son to the eye doctor for his first annual eye exam. And this was probably about a week and a half, maybe 2 weeks ago, not quite. And so the doctor was really, really nice. He was great. And he was like, oh, how's school? And, that's when I told him, yeah, we do homeschool. Everything's great, and he was like, oh. And he just literally just sat back in his chair. He was gasping for air. It was just a shock, right? And I love watching people's reactions sometimes because it's really so ridiculous. But he was just like so shocked by it, and he was like, oh wow, well, is this because of COVID? And usually I'll just say yes, because I really don't like to have to explain myself, but I'll usually just be like, well, yeah, but we also really just like the flexibility and the freedoms of homeschooling. And so then he was like, oh, well, isn't it really hard being home? And I was like, no, not at all. Not when you are, I mean, with me being self-employed, obviously, like, I do still get out of the house. I do still work to an extent. Like, I still work part-time. And I'm able to do these things. I'm able to juggle everything in a fairly comfortable manner. And so, I don't know. It's just so crazy when people act like that. And it's like, and so then finally he just kind of shut up and stopped making comments, because I think he saw that it was making me like uncomfortable. But the most important thing that you can do, before I end this video, I will tell you, the most important thing you can do to defend your homeschooling, or not even defend, because you shouldn't even have to defend the way you educate your child, because you're free to do that as you desire to. But I really feel like the best thing that you can do in your approach when someone is coming at you in that regard is to just remain confident. Just be very confident. And, you don't have to be rude. You don't have to be short. You don't have to be mean to any extent, or, come off defensive. Just be very confident, sit up straight, shoulders back, head up, and just tell them, this is what we do for our family. This is what works for our family. This is what's best for our family. And that's my favorite line. My favorite line when I'm explaining this to someone is, this is what works for our family. This is what works best for our family. And when you look at it like that, and you just look at the person, you confidently say that, this is what works best for our family, then it's almost like they kind of just like get a little bit embarrassed, and they just kind of like look away, and that's it. So anyways, that is my advice, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye.